Good afternoon, magandang hapon, and welcome to today's episode of My PI Dream. Today is Thursday, and I wasn't planning on doing an episode today. We just did the episode about the Transformers, and I thought that was a great episode because we had a lot of good responses back on that. And if you get an opportunity, please look at the comment section, because what we talked about with our Transformers situation and our voltage situation that we have in Lipa is different from different parts of the Philippines. So you might get some good insight if you live in a place like Metro Manila, where they have different types of electricity. When I say different types, I mean the type of electricity, the voltage that they have on each one of the taps coming inside your house is a little bit different than our place in Lipa. So you might be surprised at what you can do if you're looking for a 110, 120 volt solution. Well, anyway, enough about that. Today, like I said, was not planning on doing an episode, but I walked into the backyard and I was planning on listening to some music on our rock speakers. We have rock speakers throughout the yard here, and one of the speakers wasn't working. So I did some troubleshooting on it, and it's bad. It's just no good. It's not working anymore. It's a dead speaker. So I thought to myself, well, it's a speaker. Even though it's a wireless speaker, it still has a speaker inside. So maybe, instead of throwing it away, maybe I can repurpose it. Maybe I can go from a wireless speaker and then go to a wired speaker, which is a good option. We'll talk about that later on in the episode as well. So I decided that's what I plan on doing today. I'm going to mess around with speakers. Well, Ness said to me, she said, James, why don't you share that experience with the viewers here on the channel? They might be interested in something like that. So here we are. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about repurposing broken equipment from around your house. So sit back, relax, and hopefully enjoy today's episode. So without further delay, let's get today's video underway. Now, as you can see, we have several of these speakers, these wireless speakers around the yard. And these are wireless, but they're not what you traditionally think of today as wireless when you think of Bluetooth type of technology. These are old school. I started buying these speakers back in 2009. Over the past 10 years, we've purchased 8 for our property here in the U.S. And they work over basically like AM radio frequency. You set up a transmitter that you plug into any device inside your house, your iPhone, your smartphone, your computer, and it transmits, and I believe it's a 400 megahertz frequency it transmits out, and it goes to all the receiver in all these speakers. So what's nice about even old school technology, which is a little bit better than the new school technology, which is what I think, since it can broadcast, you can have as many speakers that you want to around your yard, and it will receive the same signal at all of them. So you can basically seamlessly, transparently walk around your entire yard, and you will have the same music as you're walking around all over the place. Now, today's technology, with the Bluetooth technology, it usually only transmit to 1 or 2 speakers, and when I say 2 speakers, they're usually connected together. So you can't have that same type of technology unless you have a multiple Bluetooth transmitter that you connect your source to, and it becomes complicated after a while when you start thinking like that. Or you could go to wired technology, which is something we're going to talk about here in just a minute. So anyway, these failed. Out of the 8, I have one that's working, which is this one right here. That is the only one that's working back here right now. So what I decided to do, this morning I got up and I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull the broken speakers out of our yard. And at first I was going to throw them away. I was going to get rid of them. And then I thought to myself, I might be able to repurpose these, because what's inside the rock speaker? A speaker. And a speaker isn't that complicated. You have impedance on a speaker, something like 4 ohms, 8 ohms, 16 ohms type of speakers. And then you can actually hand wire, if the speaker isn't bad, the cone material is still good, you can hand wire that on a regular manual wired system to those speakers, which is some of the technology that people use for doing landscape type of rock speakers around their yard. They do that as well. So what I'm going to try to do today is I'm going to rip this thing apart. I'm going to take all the electronic components out of it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can't hand wire this to an amplifier source and see if it works. And if it does work, what I'll do is I'll take up all the broken speakers that I have around here, we'll gut them, and I will send them off to Villa Feliz, and we will have music all over our property there. So that's what today's DIY project is going to be, is go into the unknown. We are going to rip apart this speaker, and if it works, we'll rip apart the other speakers later on, and then we'll hook it up to a audio source, and if it works fine, then what we're going to do, we'll do it to all of them, and then we'll send them over to the Philippines. Okay, well, today's kind of a nice day. I think I'm just going to sit here on the side porch. I've got a bunch of tools out already that I think will satisfy the requirements to open this rock speaker up and get to the internal components. And I got a little bit of some cardboard here so I could just dump things out, because I have a feeling there's going to be some debris. Let's talk about the speaker real quick, why I think it probably failed, why all of them failed. Remember I said I had 8, which I have 7 failures out of 8 over a 10-year period. So I think, and that will always come back to engineering design. Engineering design should compensate or accommodate for things like environmental conditions, like rain, humidity, wind, and things like that. So I think everything is going to be fine here. What I noticed here, they have a material here where the speaker, the main speaker goes right here, the material that protects the main speaker cone on the inside. So I think that's good. What they also did is they designed an angle for the holes here, so when water goes, even if it goes at an angle like this, it will drip down. It goes away from the speaker, so that's good. A failure that I did see is here on the back. I inspected the back, which is this hole right here. It's a ported hole for like a subwoofer. This will give you the deep low frequency sounds out of it. But what I noticed when I put a prod inside here, a probe, I stuck it through, and it goes all the way through. There is no material on here. So this area will be open to insects. It will be open to spiders and things like that. And as you know, if you remember our episode back in the Philippines about the PLDT fiber box, ants are fun. They are phenomenal for getting inside electronic devices and doing damage to your components. So anyway, we're going to open this up. I noticed on the bottom here it just has some screws on the bottom, and then we'll look at what components there are on the inside. So my plan is to remove electronic components, extract everything inside there to make this lighter, because they're not needed anymore, and help out the acoustics on the inside, and then put an adapter. I noticed that we have to have some type of like an RCA adapter jack on here. This will not be needed anymore. This is the power on switch, and the volume, and you're tuning to the frequency for the radio, and this is the connector for the DC power supply. What I'm thinking about doing is extracting this, getting rid of this DC power switch, and putting an RCA jack here so that we can connect up a stereo component to the speaker directly. So let's go ahead and try tearing this thing apart. Now I don't know if you can see it, but there is silicone caulk all the way around here. It's a sealant to make this more waterproof, to keep water from getting inside. So I'm going to have to take something like a screwdriver or a razor blade, cut all this out before we try to pull this base off. Alright, we have it open now, and as you can see, like I said, we have a lot of spider webs inside. So it was not void of having any type of penetration, and most of them came, I'm sure, through the port, the little port here. Remember I told you I stuck the screwdriver through here and there was no resistance, so it came through here. Now that speaker looks pretty rough, I got to tell you, but it doesn't really matter so much. This portion of the speaker, as long as the cone is still intact, and we'll test that out in just a little bit. So let me go ahead. Here's a 12-volt battery. I'm going to take the 12-volt battery off because that's no longer going to be needed. We'll turn that into a recycle center, and then we'll take the electronic components out of here, and then we'll try hooking up a an audio source to these two wires. I can see right now, since this has a tweeter at the top, what it does, it goes in parallel, it looks like, from the plus and the negative side here on the main speaker to the tweeter speaker on the top. So let me go ahead and take care of this, and then we'll test it out. So now we don't need the receiver and the amplifier circuit. We do need these wires right here. These are the speaker wires, so we'll try to disconnect. Actually, what we're going to do is I am going to clip these two speaker wires right here. Now this is marked, I can see plus and minus. The red is the plus, the yellow is the minus. So you always want to make sure that you keep your polarity straight when you hook up from your audio source to here. Make sure the plus and the negative always stay the same. So we'll cut this real quick. We'll also cut these wires here off of the control assembly. This is the LED. This should, I imagine this will pop off. Let's see if we can get this to pop off. We don't need the LED on there anymore. Oh, it's screwed in. It's screwed in. So I need a Phillips screwdriver for that. Okay, the next thing I need to do is I need to remove the amplifier circuitry inside here. The amplifier and the wireless and the radio frequency circuit board here. So let me do that, and then we'll have most everything out here that we need. I'm going to leave this component here so that we don't have any hole on the side of the speaker. Alright, so that's about it, and that's all we have left. We have a speaker, a tweeter, and a woofer, and we have a port, so the bass sounds go out of here on the bass side. So the next thing we need to do is we need to take advantage of this hole we have here, and we'll put a RCA jack inside here. We'll put a female RCA jack inside here, and we'll connect these two wires to the female RCA jack. And then we'll test it out. We'll see if it works on a audio source. Alright, so back here in my messy workshop, what I did is I installed a RCA female jack right here, and it's connected, the other end's just connected to the speaker on the inside. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect this up to this little stereo I have up here. I have this little stereo AM FM radio CD player, and what I did was I took a jack and I found a spare RCA wire jack, and I cut off one and plugged it into the speaker output. So what we'll do is we will connect it up right here into the speaker, the new RCA jack that I just installed, and what we'll do is we'll test it out. Okay, now with the speaker all gutted out and our connections in place, we have the wire from the radio going to the rock speaker. Let's see if it works.
Source for scheduling or exclusions. Propane tank not included.
With the Capital One Saver card, you earn 4%.
Oh yeah, and I can hear the bass from it too. So that's good. That works. So the next step is to do the rest of the speakers. So I will gut the rest of the speakers. I will test them all, and then the next thing is to pack them up and send them to Villa Feliz. And what we'll do is we'll find some type of an amplifier at Villa Feliz, whether it be a Bluetooth going into an amplifier. We'll find something so that we can have some nice, relaxing music all around the yard. Wow, this is quite a mess here, but I think I'm done for today. I do have an alibi. One of the speakers that I pulled apart, the speaker itself is actually bad, not the electronic components inside, but the speaker is bad, and that's this one right here. This one right here, you see it's in really, really bad shape. This is my test cables that I was working on here as well. I think the coil is bad, and it's really difficult to rebuild a coil on a speaker, so it's much easier just to replace the speaker, because these 5 1/4 inch speakers and a small tweeter, they're not that expensive. The hard part is finding one that will fit in the exact same place that we have inside the rock speaker housing. Now, that being said, also the speaker is waterproof, or it's water resistant. It's a special type, so it might be really difficult finding this specific speaker. But I will take a stab at it and see what I can do. Now, something I didn't talk about when I was talking about repurposing the speakers is if you are putting together a speaker ensemble, more than 2 speakers, because speakers are rated in impedance, and impedance goes by ohms. So you normally have like 4 ohm speakers, or 8 ohm speakers, or 16 ohm speakers. Now, if you're going to do something like a landscape job where you're going to add multiple speakers inside your yard, you have to take impedance into consideration if you're adding multiple speakers together, because there's basically 3 types of configurations that you can do with speakers. Oh, my light just went off. Hold on a second. I have an automatic light in here, and it goes on and off. Let me put it back on again. Stand by. It is a motion sensor light that I have inside here, so when you walk, you don't ever have to flip on a switch, and if you don't walk back by it, or you're doing something right in front of the switch, it will turn off. Anyway, that being said, where was I? Oh, talking about impedance. I said there's basically 3 types of configurations you can have when you're adding speakers onto your system. So say like we have an amplifier, and our amplifier is going to connect to multiple speakers in the yard. Well, normally if you just have 2 speakers, a left channel and a right channel, if you have an 8 ohm speakers, it's an 8 ohm load. But maybe you might want to add 2 speakers on the left side and 2 speakers on the right side, like what we want to do out at Villa Feliz. So if you do that, the 3 configurations you can configure it as can be series, parallel, or series parallel. And they all have to do with when you're adding speakers together, where you connect the connections on the back of the plus and the negative side of your speakers, and how you connect those speakers together. And basically, when you are hooking things up in parallel, if you have 2 8 ohm speakers, if you connect it in parallel configuration, you're going to get a 4 ohm load. If you do it in series, you're going on 8 ohm speakers, you're going to get 16 ohms. And if you do it in series parallel configuration, you're going to get the same load. So if you have 8 ohm speakers, two pair of 8 ohm speakers, you're going to get 8 ohms on your load there as well. And you can look all that up on Google, but you want to make sure that you match your speakers up to your amplifier, so you don't have too much impedance or too little impedance, because you could damage your amp. So that's the tip of the day there. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I gotta clean all this stuff up back here. It's a mess. I hate things being such a mess. So if you did enjoy today's video, please give me a thumbs up. Please share. And if you had not subscribed, just click on that little My PI Dream heart in the bottom right hand side of your screen. You'll be subscribed and you'll be notified the next time I upload a new video. So until such time, you have a wonderful and blessed day.
Won't do me no good washing in the river, and no preacher man save my soul. Won't do me no good washing in the river, and no preacher man save my soul.